Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Dutchy Gaming, and a very quick video on the channel going over my league start and content plans for 324. I myself am going to be playing a pretty scuffed Vile Lightning Strike character that I've been putting together in the last couple of weeks, but I'm mainly playing it because I'm very pushed on time at the beginning of the league. I have basically the first 3 days to play and then I'm away for a week. So I want the build that I can get at least into red maps, farming any league content I want and any league mechanic that I want to. It's not a build I recommend people follow unless they've tried it before because it has very limited scaling and it's certainly not going to push much past your 4 void stones and things like invitation farming. It will never scale to do Ubers and the new T17 content. I have updated my Reign of Hours champion guide that I ran in 322. That still works well. There's been no changes since that build. I've just updated the POB to add a bit of a better end game gear set. But again, this isn't going to be an Uber farmer. It is a mapping character to farm your currency to then make that second character that you want to kill Uber bosses. If you played my Vile Reign of Hours Raider character last league, that is unchanged because there is nothing really in patch notes that have affected it, other than a small nerfed Sniper's Mark, but we didn't really utilize it that much anyway, as other arrow characters do. So I will put links in this video description to the Raider guide and the Champion guide. I'm not going to get a chance to update the written guides for those characters because it is a ton of work. But in terms of the builds, they just work the same as they did previously. You would just ignore any comments around things like tattoos or charms. But because they were league start guides, I doubt very much that I went into them in any detail whatsoever. In terms of how I plan to get currency early on, again, I'll bring out a video over my planned Atlas trees. There's a lot of options open up with this league because not only do we have access to different Atlas trees that we can switch between, it looks like we're much easier going to be able to spec into content to almost guarantee it turns up much earlier than we would be able to in previous leagues. So it does mean if I do want to farm lower tier red maps, late tier yellow maps, I should have the Atlas points to be able to get tons of league content into those Atlas trees. There's also less options to really push your Atlas really quickly because Wandering Path has been removed. So you can no longer just guarantee that you drop maps, take all the connected and duplication nodes, and then just breeze your way through to T16s. So for the majority of players, actually leveling up through your Atlas and getting it completed is going to be slower. And again, it gives you more chance to farm for currency in the lower tiers of maps, rather than feel like you're being punished for not pushing straight to those T16 maps. In terms of what the league mechanic might do and what I might look to get out of it, I'm not even going to second guess that until we've had a chance to get into it and see exactly how it plays. It doesn't look amazing in all honesty, but I said I hated the look of Tota and I ended up really enjoying it. So I'll obviously hold judgment until I get to play it. In terms of any of the new gems, we don't have details yet. We don't know how difficult these T17 maps are. So I don't want to try and make a character to handle that content because A, I'm unlikely to run it because I really don't enjoy that type of content. And with the fact that Uber bossing has moved away from the normal keys, it does mean that even if you've only got a character that can farm boss maps, or maybe you can just do the regular bosses, it's now worth doing because that loot only drops from those bosses. So if you wanted to farm a Crystallized Omniscience, it's only the normal Syrian Exarch that's going to drop it. The Uber Syrian Exarch is going to have his own pool of loot. Same with things like Shaper. If you want a Dying Sun, it's only Shaper that's going to provide you that item and not Uber Shaper. I'm really quite excited about these changes because it does open up farming options for people that have no interest in getting their characters to Uber viable builds. Anyone that follows my builds before will know what they're getting themselves into. It will be a decent mapper, a decent all-rounder, and it will do the majority of normal content in the game. But because I don't enjoy doing Uber content, and I do feel that you really have to specialize your character to do it and do it quickly, it's just not something I want to get involved with my league start builds because I know I'm never going to push it to that area myself. In terms of videos on the channel, I'm just working through the league start guide for my Vile Lightning Strike champion. But again, I don't recommend that anyone follow it. I just like to give people the progress on what I'm doing. And if they did want to be crazy and follow it, I'll bring a full guide out on how I'm going to level it, how I'm going to gear it, and what content it can do at what stage. As I said, I'll bring out an Atlas video and then just a general tips and tricks video before we go into the new league. But it is something that I'm actually more looking forward to than I normally would for doing the campaign because it looks like there's lots of stuff added in. So they're adding in league mechanics into the campaign. It looks like they're changing some boss fights to add extra rewards, which can only help us. It may make those initial encounters difficult, but it might be if some monsters drop essences or some monsters drop uniques or rituals will get you some early alchemy orbs or binding orbs. They're ways to really boost your character up at league start, and I'm really excited about that. I'm slightly concerned about the league mechanic because it looks like you have to do it in every single zone. And essentially every single zone is almost like a mini gauntlet ruthless type zone where it's just much more difficult and you cannot get around that. You have to deal with the difficulty. And that's the main reason I'm picking champion to go this league rather than raider, because with things like fortify, big armor and evasion, it will give me a bit more leeway in terms of the damage that I take when I'm in those zones, especially in the early maps. Whereas with raider, until you get your evasion really, really high, you are susceptible to one shots more. And if we've got monsters do 50% increased damage and silly mods like that, it could make raider a bit uncomfortable. I still think it will be fine because all builds have got to deal with these issues, but it is something that I have thought about in the back of my mind before releasing the guide I want to bring out for my build, because as I say, I've only got limited time. I want to be able to at least have my first 2 void stones and be farming quite a lot of currency by the time I jet off on Monday morning. That's kind of it for this video. Very quick one. Expect lots of content on the channel in the next few days leading up to league start. I will be streaming the launch live on Twitch. So the league start launch for me is 8 PM in the evening. So realistically, I'm going to maybe just about get the campaign done. But normally I'll be chatting to people on Twitch. I'll be leveling slower than usual. So I'm realistically expecting to get to around Act 8, do some heists, get 20 to 30 chaos. So when I wake up in the morning and tons of people are at maps, I can then go and snag the items I want to finish off my build. And then hopefully by the end of Saturday, I've pushed and got into red maps. Sunday, finish Atlas, and then farm as much currency as I can in whatever league mechanic I pick. And then I'm just going to have to deal with FOMO while I go away. Obviously looking forward to it, but everyone will be absolutely zooming ahead of me, and then I'll get back the weekend after, and then we'll motor on from there. So my Twitch will be linked in the video description, along with my previous builds that are still viable because there's no changes. But as I say, lots more content to come in the next few days. Thanks for watching, take care, and see you in the next one.